This is Maritime Labor Convention of 2016. So now let's talk about the MLC. So what is MLC? The Maritime Labor Convention is an international labor organization's conventions established in 2016 as the fourth pillar of international maritime law and embodies all up-to-date standards of existing international maritime labor convention and recommendation, as well as the fundamental principles to be found in other international labor convention. The Maritime Labor Convention or MLC is divided into five main titles. The first title is Minimum Requirements for Seafarers to Work on Ships. Second title is Conditions of Employment. Third title is Accommodations, Recreation, Food and Catering. The fourth title is Health Protection, Medical Care, Welfare and Social Security Protection. And lastly is the Compliance and Enforcement. So let's go back to the first title. The first title of Minimum Requirements for Seafarers to Work on Ships are included the minimum age, medical certificate, training and certification, recruitment and placement. The second title is Condition of Employment. This included the Seafarers Employment Agreement, wages, hours of rest and hours of work, entitlements to leave, repatriation, seafarer and compensation for the ship's loss or foundering, maintaining levels, and last is career and skill development and opportunities for seafarers' employment. From the third title is Accommodation, Recreation, Food and Catering. Is accommodation and recreational facilities, and also the food and catering. From the fourth title is Health Protection, Medical Care, Welfare and Social Security Protection. Was included the medical care on board and ashore, ship owners liability, health and safety protection and accident prevention, access to shore based welfare facilities, and social security. And lastly, the compliance and enforcement was included the flag state responsibility, authorization for recognized organization, maritime labor certificate and declaration of maritime labor compliance, inspection and enforcement, onboard compliance procedures, port state responsibilities, marine casualties, and last is labor supplying responsibilities. So, in Maritime Labor Convention, there was 16 articles. And the first article is general obligation. Each member which ratifies this convention undertakes to give complete effects its provisions into the manner set out in Article 6 in order to the secure of right of all seafarers to decent employment. Members shall cooperate with each other for the purpose of ensuring the effective implementation and enforcement of this convention. From Article 2 is definition and scope of application. Number 1, for the purpose of the convention is unless provided in otherwise is particular provisions. The term A. Competent the authority means the minister, government departments or other authority having power to issue the enforce regulations, others or other instructions having the force of law in respect of the subject matter of the provision concerned. Letter B is declaration for the maritime labor and compliance means the declarations refers to the regulation of 5, 1, and 3. So let's go to the article letter C pa pala. Letter C is a gross tonnage means the gross tonnage calculated in accordance with the tonnage measurements regulation contains in Annex 1 to the International Convention on Tonnage Measurements of Ships of 1969 or any successors to convention for ships converts by the tonnage measurement interim the scheme adopted by the International Maritime Organization. The gross tonnage is that which would included the remarks columns of the International Tonnage Certificate of 1969. Letter D is Maritime Labor Certificate means the certificate referred to in the regulation of 5.1 and 3. And lastly, from letter E is requirements of this convention refers to the requirements in these articles in the regulation and part A of the code of this convention. Letter F. Seafarer means any person who is employed to engage the works in any capacity on board a ship to which is the convention applies. Letter G is seafarers' employment agreements include both a contract of employment and articles of agreement. Letter H is seafarer recruitments and replace the servants means any person's company, institution, agency or other organization in public and the private sectors which is engaged in recruiting seafarers on behalf of ship owners or replacing seafarers with ship owners. Letter I is ship means of the ship other than the one which navigates inclusive in inland waters of water within or closely the adjustment to shelters the water of areas where port regulation apply. Letter J is ship owner means the owner of the ship is another organization or person, such as the manager, agent, surveyor, charterer, who has assumed the responsibility for the operations of the ship from the owner and who, on assuming such a responsibility, has agreed to take over the duties of responsibilities imposed on the ship owners in accordance with this convention, regardless of whether any other organizations or persons fulfill the certain of the duties or responsibilities on behalf of the ship owner. From the number 2 of Article 2, as except the expressly provided otherwise, this convention applies to all seafarers. Number 3 is an event in the event of doubt as to whether of any categories of the persons are to be regarded as seafarers for the purpose of this convention. The question shall be determined by the competent authority in each member after consultation with the ship owners and the seafarers organizations concerned with this question. And number 4, except as expressly provided otherwise, this convention applies to all ships, whether it's publicly or privately owned, ordinarily engaged in commercial activities, other than the ships engaged in the fishing or in the similar pursuit, and the ship on traditional builds such as dhows and junks. This convention does not apply to warship or naval auxiliaries. Number 5, in the event of doubt as to whether the convention applies to the ship of the particular categories of ship, the question shall be determined by the competent authority in each member after the consultation with the ship owners and the seafarers organization concerned. From the number 6. From the number 6, where the competent authority determines that this will not be responsible or practicable at the present time and apply certain details of the code referred to in Article 4, Paragraph 1, to the ship of the particular categories of ships flying the flag of the member. The relevant provisions of the code shall not apply to the extent that the subject matter is dealt with differently of national laws, or the regulation of the collective bargaining of the agreements or other measures. Such determinations may only be may only be made in consultation with the ship owners and seafarers organization concerned, and may be only made with respect to the ships of less than 200 gross tonnage not engaged in international voyages. From number 7 is any determination made by the member of the under paragraph 3 or 5 or 6 of this article shall be communicated to the Director General of the International Labour Office, who shall notify the member of the organization. From number 8, unless expressly provided otherwise, a reference to the Convention of the Constitution is at the same time a reference to the regulation and the code. Now, let's proceed to the article number 3 is fundamental rights and principles. Each member shall satisfy itself that the provisions of its law is regulation respect in the context of this convention as the fundamental rights go. From letter is freedom of association of the effective recognition of the rights to the collective bargaining. Letter B is the elimination of all forms of force of compulsory labor. Letter C is the effective of the abolitions of child labor, and letter D is the eliminations of this discrimination and respect of employment and occupation. From article number 4 is seafarers' employment of the social rights. One is every seafarer has the right to a safe and secure workplace that complies with the safety standards. Number 2 is every seafarer has a right to fair the terms of employment. Every seafarer has a right to decent working and living conditions on board ship. Every seafarer has a right to health protection, medical care, welfare measures, and other forms of social protection. Each member shall be ensured within the limits of its jurisdictions that the seafarer's employment and social rights set out in the preceding paragraphs of this article are fully implemented in accordance with the requirements of this convention unless specified otherwise in convention. Such implementations may be achieved through the national laws and regulations, through the applicability bargaining and agreements or through the other measurements or in practice. So now the article number 5 is implementation and enforcement responsibilities. Each member shall implement and enforce the laws of regulation or other measures that is adopted or fulfill its commitments under these conventions with respect and ships seafarers under its jurisdiction. From number 2, each member shall be the effective exercise its jurisdictions and control other ships that fly its flag by establishing the system for ensuring compliance with the requirements of this convention, including the regulations, inspection, reporting, monitoring, and legal proceedings under the applicable laws. From number 3, each member shall ensure that ships that fly its flag carry the Maritime Labor Certificate and the Declaration of Maritime Labor Compliance as required by this convention. Number 4, a ship to which this convention applies may be accordance with the international law of the inspected by the member other than the flag states when the ship is in one of its ports to determine whether the ship is compliance with the requirements of this convention. Number 5 is each member shall be effective in exercising its jurisdictions and control over seafarer recruitments and replacement reservists, if these are established in its territory. Each member shall be the prohibited violation of the requirements of the convention and shall, in accordance with international law, establish the sanctions of the require the adoption of corrective measures under the laws which are adequate to discourage such violation. Number 7, Each member shall implement its responsibilities under this convention in such a way as to ensure that the ships that fly the flag of any state that has not ratified this convention do not receive more favorable treatments than the ships that fly the flag of any state that has ratified it. From Article number 6 is regulation and parts A and B of the code. Number 1, the regulations and the provisions of Part A and of the code are the mandatory. The provisions of Part B of the code are not mandatory. So, number 2, each member undertakes to respect the rights and the principles it set out in the regulations and the implements of each regulation in the manner set out in the corresponding provisions of Part A of the Code. In addition, the members shall give due to the consideration implementing the responsibilities in the manner provided for in Part B of the Code. From number 3, a member which is not a position to implement the rights of the principles in the manner set out in the Part A of the Code may, unless expressly provided otherwise in convention, implemented the Part A through the provision is in its law and regulation of other measures which are substantially equivalent to the provision of Part A. From number 4 is for the sole purpose of the paragraph 3 of this article. Any law, regulation, collectiveness agreement with other implementing measurements shall be considered to the substantially equivalent. In the context of this convention, its members satisfy itself that letter A is conducive to the full achievements of the general object of the purpose of the provision or other provision or provisions of Part A and Code concerned, and letter B is give the effect to the provision or provisions of Part A of the Code concerned. From Article number 7, which is the consultation with ship owners and the seafarers organization, any derogations, exemptions, or other flexible application of this convention for which the convention requires the consultation with the ship owners and the seafarers organization may, in case where the representative organization of ship owners or the seafarers do not exist within the member, only be decided by the member should the consultation with the committee is referred to in the article number 8 and number 13. From article number 8 is entry into the force. From number 1, the formal ratification of this convention shall be communicated to the Director General of the International Labour Office of Registration. This convention is binding only upon those members of the International Labour Organization. Those ratifications have been registered by the Director General. From number 3 is the convention shall be come into the first 12 months after the date of which there are being registered ratifications by the list of 30 members within the total shares of the world gross tonnage of the ships of at least 33%. Number 4, thereafter this convention shall come into the force for any 12 months after the date on which its ratifications has been registered. From article number 9 is denunciation. Number 1, a member which has ratified this convention may denounce it after the expirations of 10 years from the date of which the convention first comes into force, by an act communicated to the Director General of the International Labour Office for the registrations. Such a denunciation shall not take the effect until the 1 year after the date of which registered. Number 2, each member which does not, within the year of following the expiration of the period of 10 years mentioned in the paragraph 1 of this article exercise the rights of denunciation provided for in this article shall be bound for another period of 10 years and thereafter may denounce its convention at the expiration of each new period of 10 years under the terms of provided into this article. From Article number 10 is effective entry into the force. This convention revised the following convention: the minimum age, or C, Convention of 1920, number 7, Employment's Indemnity of Shipwreck, Convention of 1920, number 8, Placing of Seamen, Convention of 1920s, number 9, Medical Examination of Young Persons, C, Convention of 1921 is number 16, Seamen's of Article of Agreement, Convention of 1926 is number 22, Repatriation of Seamen, Convention of 1926, number 23, Officers Competency Certificate, Convention of 1936 is number 35. From the Article number 11, Depositary Function. The Director General of the International Labour Office shall notify all members of the International Labour Organization of the registration of all ratification, acceptance, and the denunciation under the Convention, when the conditions provided for the paragraph 3 of the Article 8 have been fulfilled. The Director General shall draw the attention of the members of the organization to the date upon this which the convention will come into the force. From Article number 12, the Director General of the International Labour Office shall communicate to the Secretary General of the United Nations for the restoration of the accordance with the Article 102 of the Charter of the United Nations, full particular of the all ratifications, acceptance, and the denunciation registered under this convention, special tripartite committee. From the Article number 13, the special tripartite committee. The governing body of the International Labour Office shall keep the working of this convention under the continuous review to the committee established by it with special competence in the area of maritime labor standards. From number 2, for the matters that dealt with in accordance with this convention, the committee shall consist of 2 representatives nominated by the governance of each member which has ratified this convention, and the representatives of ship owners and seafarers appointments by the governing body after the consultation with the Joint Maritime Commission. From number 3 is governments representatives of members which have not yet ratified this convention may be participated in the committee but shall have no right to vote on any matter dealt with accordance with this convention. The governing body may invite their organization for the entities to be represented in the committee by the observers. The votes of each ship owners and the seafarers representatives in the committee shall be the right with as they ensure that the ship owners group and the seafarers group each have the half to voting of powers of the total numbers of the governments which the representative at the meeting concerns and entitled to vote. From Article number 14 is amendments of this convention. Number 1 is amendments of any provisions of this convention may be adopted by the General Conference of the International Labour Organization in the frameworks of Article number 19 of the Constitution of the International Labour Organization and the rules and procedures of the organization for the adoption of convention. Amendments to the codes may also be adopted following of the procedures in Article number 15. In the case of member who ratifications of this convention were registered before the adoptions of the amendments of next of amendments shall be the communications them for ratification. And number 3, in the case of other members of the organization, the text of convention as amendments shall be communicated to them for ratification in accordance with Article number 19 for the Constitution. Number 4 is amendments shall be being accepted with the date when there have been registered certifications of the amendments of the convention as amendment, as the case may be, by the list of 30 members which total share in the world gross tonnage of ships of at least 33%. And amendments adopted in the frameworks of Article number 19 of the Constitution shall be binding only upon those members of the organization whose ratification have been registered by the Director General of the International Labour Office. And number 6, for any member referred in the paragraph 2 of this article, an amendment shall be come into the force of 12 months after the date of the acceptance referred in the paragraph 4 of this article, 12 months after on which its ratification of the amendments has been registered, whichever date is later. From Article number 15, the amendments to the Code. The Code may be amended either the proceeds set out the Article number 4 or the unless expressly provided otherwise in accordance with the procedure set out in the present article. An amendments to the codes may be proposed to the Director General of the International Labour Office by the governments of any members of the organizations or by the group of ship owners representatives or the group of the seafarers representatives who have been appointed to the committees referred to in Article number 13. And amendments proposed by the government must have been proposed by or be proposed by at least 5 governments of members that have ratified convention by the group of ship owners or seafarers representatives seafarer onto this paragraph. And lastly, from the article number 16 is authoritative language. The English and French version of an text of this convention are equally authoritative. And that's all. Thank you.